Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome to another edition of eHeroes, the interview series for entrepreneurs. And today's eHero is Rob Lyon, and the reason why Rob I think he's one of my eHeroes because he does multiple things. I mean, he's involved with restoration, he's involved with music, he's involved with, he actually wrote his own book, and he loves my book, so that really makes you an eHero in my book. So welcome, Rob.
Hey, how are you, Rob?
So before this call, we were actually talking about you're not a New Yorker, but you live in New York, or you live in Jersey, but you work in New York. So how does that
Correct.
plan out? I mean, because you were up in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. So how did you make that
Yeah.
move?
Um, like anything, I started the business, did pretty well with it. Some people can relate. I went through a divorce, decided I wanted to make a change. At the time, it was just, you know what, I think I don't want to do this anymore. I think I wanted to make some type of a difference. So I got up, packed my stuff, and moved to Beverly, as the term goes. But I went to New York instead, the old total opposite of Beverly. And not knowing it and understanding how big it was and the different client demands, the different ways people thought about things, well, it was a true culture shock for sure when I first got there. However, I loved it. People there are genuine, very, very good people, very nice people, very to the point. They tell you what's exactly on their mind. I respected that. And if you were willing to put in work and you were willing to be honest with these people, something they were really not used to doing and dealing with, you could capitalize upon that. And I found that it was kind of a tale of two cities, as the book goes. I was back in Hazleton in the Pocono part of Pennsylvania, which is, I had a 500,000 population, to Staten Island. We started the business, has 500,000 people in it. And to give you a perspective on that, Luzerne County, where I'm from, is approximately I think Luzerne County is somewhere around 500 or 600 square miles. All of New York City is 380 square miles. So you're on the most densely populated place in the United States, and Manhattan is probably the most densely populated borough in the world. It's a totally different animal when you walk and you drive down through Manhattan, or as people call it here, the city. That's what everybody refers to it as. You got 10 gazillion marketing messages every block, and that's before Times Square. So if you get there, forget about it. That's a lesson in itself. So I went here and went, wow, you got to stand out because everything stands out here. How are you going to do that? And that's where I started developing the same processes of doing what you say every single time without excuses and making sure you're gonna get done. And if you're a person of your word, no matter where you are in this country or probably in this world for that matter, people will give you the opportunity, and reputation follows you. If you have a good reputation, that'll follow you. Bad reputation, likewise. So I was able to have some pretty good success because I didn't know, pardon my French, the bull that came along with not doing it right. Oh, you can get away with it. There's 10 million people here. Why would I want to? I want all 10 million customers. I know I can't have 10 million, but you get the drift. You want as many opportunities as you can get. Why would I alienate a person because it's so big I can move on to the next guy and not worry about that? And you know this more than anybody in a small market. Now you're obviously all over the world, but in a small market like where you're at, everybody talks to everybody. So you better have your thing together, or you're in a world of trouble. So I made sure I did everything I promised somebody I would do, whether it was my business partner, whether it was customers, clients, referring parties. I made sure that it got done. That's what that phone call was just about. Was I said this person would be there at a certain time, and it was 7 o'clock at that time, and he was not there in that phone call. So I messaged the customer, said, "I'm very sorry. Please call the office. This is what happens." But I have that reputation that if I tell you something, it gets done. They don't understand it not getting done. Now, what would have taken a phone call to call the guy and say, "I'm not going to be there on time"? Simple process, but a lot of people don't do it. In fact, again, as you can see, we struggle with it at times where things should happen automatically. I shouldn't be the one having to be that person. I should be able to enjoy my conversation and not have that. Well, that's the way business ought to be, and that's the way a person's life ought to be. Here's nothing that really stuck out. I'll leave it at that. People here were used to you showing up late because it was a natural thing to not be on time. So I would do this thing called pick up the phone, this foreign device that we have. Mrs. Smith, I want to let you know I'm sorry. Traffic is really bad. I'm going to be about 15 minutes late. Well, thank you. You didn't have to call me. Nobody else does. That's
And
my story.
those simple processes of picking up the phone have enabled your restoration company to grow from 0 customers making $0
Mm-hmm.
to well over $1 million a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have a big pond to fish in, which makes it a little bit easier. You have a lot more prospects, but you have just as much competition. So when I tell people there are 8,000 restoration companies that service the New York area, that makes their head just smoke and blow up. But it's true. We have 8,000 companies that service the Metro New York area in restoration services. So why do I deserve the opportunity? Why would somebody give me the opportunity? Why do I have any ability to make an impact on them? I do what I say I'm going to do. Going back to the simple concepts that probably most of us learned if you read the Bible when you were a kid. You need to do what you say. If you're a person of your word and you say you're going to do it, you do it.
And those simple processes, those promises, those things that you say that you're going to do turned into your book, Service Without Excuses. So, how did you put that together? I mean, I know the average person will probably get through that book in maybe an hour, but it's one of those testaments that, you can take your systems, your processes, and put them on paper, and people will say, wow, this is great. This is a book. This is something I can look into, and I can say, hey, this is what makes Rob Lyons tick. But it's not just you. Those processes can be duplicated by everybody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's simple to read because I have a short attention span, as you know. So for me, I wanted everybody to be able to read it no matter who it was. And I give this to everybody. By the way, I mail these out. If somebody calls me, I don't sell it on Amazon. It's not really what the purpose of it is. It's not a very expensive book to print up. It's cost me a couple of dollars to print. I tell you, if I spend 30 minutes on the phone with you and I give you some actionable ideas, some real ideas about how maybe I can help your service-based business, because that is what I work with, I just mail the book to you and I send you a bunch of other free stuff, email it to you, and so forth and so on. Because even if I'm not the right person for you, take what's in here, do what you will. I had a customer the other day that wanted to look into hiring me or hiring a major water damage licensing program. And I know the people in the licensing program. I was with them for a few years myself, and they're great people. And I said, what was your end goal? What are you doing right now? How much water damage work are you doing right now? Water, fire, whatever it is. 0. I said, then you need to really talk to them about their licensing program. When you get through that and you become successful, you come back to me and I'll get you to the next level. Next level is getting you from that $100,000, $150,000 you're going to make to the $1 million. That's what I do. But I'm not going to, you need to start somewhere, and I'm not your guy. So what I have found is realize what you're best at and help people that you can help. And whatever you're not, refer out to somebody that's better suited. I would not be an expert on social media. I would say Rob Anspach is an expert on social media. I'm not that guy. Do I understand social media? Yeah, but I'm not giving you advice on your social media campaign. I'm not that guy. I can tell you how to structure, organize, and systemize your operation and put it in marketing systems and make sure everything is streamlined. That I can do. But I can't tell you about social media. Again, I understand it, but that's like saying I understand a piece of the law, but I play a lawyer on TV. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I can't give legal advice. I can understand bits and pieces of where the law works at and relates to business and music and that, but that's it. Okay, I know this and for a fact does work here, but maybe not in Kansas. You might want to check with them.
But you are doing stuff on social media. I mean, you are taking videos every day. I mean, you're putting them out there to educate, entertain, and engage your audience. And I think that's what people lack the ability to do. It's to them, it's one more thing in their marketing toolbox that they just don't understand. And
it is a tough toolbox. I'm sorry.
No, at least you are attempting to use the tools in front of you.
You use what you have. So, an example is I'm in the house today and I have a saw and I've got to cut out a board. Again, I still go out and do the physical work as well as dress up in a suit and talk to somebody. So it depends on this, whatever's right for the course, Broadway, so to speak. So my drill died. I have a reciprocating drill. So what do? Stop and take a coffee break? Time is money. No. So I go out and grab my drill and I take the drill and the bit and I section by section of that wood board until I got through it to where I could knock it out with a hammer. Well, that's some crazy MacGyver stuff right there. But the point being, you use the tools you have. You use what you have that's in front of you, what you have the opportunity. You started from nothing. I started from nothing. You don't know all these great tools because you started with nothing, no money, no anything, and you built it up. And that's how you can appreciate that if the saw dies, maybe I should grab the drill and continue to go forth on it. And that's what I've done in business is if this doesn't work, if an advertising campaign doesn't work, well, got another day. Try something else.
Well, you're kind of a multifaceted person because you understand the marketing behind a service, but then you also understand the marketing behind your passion, which is music. And it's two different mindsets. Oh, yeah. So, how did you transition yourself into doing both, enjoying life both ways?
Started with music when I was very young and was playing at clubs far before I ever should have been legally allowed to play in a bar or nightclub. Doing my whole life. Stopped for periods of time and picked it back up. And I play a lot in the Jersey Shore today, and I fill in with some other projects that I've done session work in New York City. And it's my therapy. And what I did was I took what I consider the most difficult business field, which is music. Music business is tough. It's cutthroat. It's ruthless. I know you're friends with Steve Sims, so he could probably attest that it's a very difficult business. And it gives you zero ability to make a mistake. It gives you zero ability to not make an impact. And I took those concepts into business. Now, when I started, I was an employee for many, many years. And after a while, it was the old, well, if you think you can do it better, do it yourself. And I did. I was lucky. I was fortunate enough to be successful at it. But I took the same gamble you take as a musician when you're playing with a band and you finally say, you know what? This might not be the right situation for me anymore. I think I need to move into a different idea or different concept, something that is better suited for where I think I need to go one way or the other. Business is no different. I took the same philosophies of what is the right opportunity, what seems to be making the most mark, and rolled with it, ran with it. And after a while, you start to develop similarities between all of them. As you know, they're spiders. They're this is similar to this, to this, to this. They all are related. So one way or the other, you have to find out what order they got to go in, but they're all related. So I found that the music business, as being as cutthroat and as difficult as it is unforgiving. Business is cutthroat and unforgiving. And if you make a mistake, you better fall on your own sword and you better start apologizing. And if you're not willing to do that, you shouldn't be in business. You've got to understand that you got to do what you say you're going to do. I mean, no matter what field it is. So yeah, I parlayed one into the other, really.
So what's your genre? I mean, rock music.
What I love is my playing in the clubs is rock, everything from Black Sabbath to Bruno Mars. So it's a big, wide spectrum because you have a variety of customers that will come see your band. So you have to be able to appeal to them. The band I currently play with knows 500 songs. Now, I don't know all 500 songs. I've got cheat sheets and stuff. I do know a bunch of them. But if he pulls out one that says, hey, we're going to do this song, and I'm like, we play that song? Yeah, we play that song. Okay. So then I got to go look up the cheat sheet and figure out what is real quick. Or get a quick refresher, which is even very difficult to come up with. So you have to have a wide repertoire to play because you're playing to everybody. But we also know if we're playing certain clubs, say we're playing a bar that might be on the shore that is a mainstay, that the songs you're going to play there are not the same songs you're going to play in a classic rock bar or a classic rock venue that has maybe food or vendors there eating food, eating dinner. Can't be the same genre. So you have to be versatile enough to make everybody happy. but you got to know what your target market is, as we always say. So if you're playing music, you know your target market is, I'm playing a restaurant, you might not want to play Black Sabbath during dinner hour. Great at the end of the night, not good then. But the same similarities go to business. You understand that this doesn't work for this. Why would you go and market to, if I market to a plumbing contractor, why would I market to a new install guy? He may call me when he makes a mistake. He's not going to call me. I want to find the emergency service guys to service people. Know your target market.
So when you go into people's homes, do you kind of look at them to see what kind of music that they like to try to strike up a conversation?
You got it. That's good. Absolutely, I do. And I've met some very interesting people, some famous people. Just met one actually last week. And I said, are you related? Yeah, it's my brother. And he's one of the greatest jazz bass players, and I'm a bass player, that has ever lived. He's a Brooklyn guy, lives in California now, but it's his brother. And I'm like, wow, small world. But the name was so unique. I went, you gotta be related. There's no way. And then I'll start talking to him about situations. My father, we just had to, put him into a care facility full time because he has dementia. And it's developing stages, so he needs the full time care he deserves. And his neighbor happens to be a famous session bass player, New York legend, has toured with members of the Rolling Stones on world tours. I mean, legend. Everybody would know his name if you're a bass player. And I looked at him and said, wow, he looks familiar. So my conversation for the next 2 hours was about him. I says, Dad, you got a good guy here. And he goes, I know. Spent the last 2 damn hours talking to him, about that. But now I got a carte blanche. And now he's like, when's your son coming over? He's going to bring his bass. I have one of my acoustic basses here. When's he going to come over and play and bring? So I'm going to get a DVD and kind of take him back through history. My father is the reason I got into music, because he just loves music. He's really not a playing guy, but he just has a natural ear for what works and what doesn't work. So I got it from him from that standpoint. He's sitting next to a bass legend as his roommate. I kind of want to trade places with him right now, because I think that's pretty awesome. This guy was giving me such an education. Can you believe this guy would do this? Yeah, this guy didn't. The stories this gentleman would tell you were just incredible. And I soaked it all up. And I left there going, wow, I'm a different person for meeting this human being. And who would have thought that would have happened? How would you know? And by the way, he was in another room first. He was just moved because the other patient was couldn't sleep, and he was noisy and whatever. So they just moved him that day to this gentleman's room. So now I look forward to it, because it's my give it back. Now I'm going to bring in DVDs of old band music and stuff and bring it in, play it for him, bring my bass in and parlay it into what I do. So it'll serve two results at the end of the day. Sorry, I went off track a little bit.
No, that's great. Because I think storytelling is a phenomenal way to capture someone's attention and educate them. And, with this guy having a library of knowledge in his head of his own experiences, it gives you plenty of time to listen. But, here's the thing is that, before we started recording, you talked about it took you 12 years to learn how to write lyrics. And, most people in the music industry realize that writing lyrics is your storytelling. But, to some people, it comes natural. To some other people, it takes a long time to get that rhythm and rhyme and get your thoughts on paper. But you know what? It doesn't matter about the time. It matters about the way that you can finally tell that story to people so that they can understand. So, your 12 years was you learning the trade, learning how to write better. Just like, copywriting or marketing, everything it takes time.
It does. It is. There is nothing built overnight that can't be knocked down tomorrow. If you want something to last, it's going to take a while. I was explaining to, and this is kind of related to what we're talking about, that there's two ways to look at music. There is, as a musician, there are people that are skilled and there are people that have talent. Some people think they're both the same. And as a musician, you realize they're not. If you've got talent, you can naturally sing. You can naturally write lyrics. You're a naturally great instrumentalist. My fiance's son is really talented. Her nieces can sing in perfect key every time with no training. I had to question that because they had to have somebody in their background, their father or whatever, that had that talent, because that just doesn't pop out. You don't have that natural born talent, no training. And then there's schmucks like me that had to work on it and screw it up over and over again. And I had to develop the skill of doing what I was doing, where the talent was that. So I say, when you see a person that is like a Bruno Mars, he's a crossover skill and talent, but he's by far talent first and then skill. Very skilled individual, incredibly talented. So he's a little bit of a crossover, but he has core talent in the first place. I think there's nothing that guy can't do in this world when it comes to the music field. That's talent. That is natural, born, given, didn't need any of the skills. They already had it. And if you're going to be a great songwriter, you're like Bruce Springsteen's considered one of the greatest rock songwriters of all time. He's obviously a legend right here. And he is. He's a brilliant lyricist. But he's not a technically great. He can't write music. He can't read music. He's a good guitar player, but he certainly can't understand or tell you other than the chords he's playing, what he's doing. He's talented. Very, very talented. Skilled, not as much, but extremely talented.
But you know what? Yeah, the skill can be learned. And, looking at your bookshelf, you have got all those books in back of you that you've constantly have read, you reread, and you even now are writing your own. Mm-hmm. So you're passing on that knowledge to someone else, and that's your legacy.
It's funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was ironic because I don't really ever, I just walk into the room, this is my office, and grab a book because I know where they are, because I have them kind of subcategorized by, okay, I want to work on, like we're talking, copywriting, or I want to work on something else. So I just kind of come into the room and grab it. Now, when I look back on it, I never really thought about it before. It's a library of information, and there is nothing on here I really have not read or utilized. Now, have I used it to its max? Absolutely not. I haven't used your books to the max, not even close. However, they're there.
Mm-hmm.
I could pick it up. I see your books right at the top right here. I can always go back and learn from them. And every time I read something, by the way, I could speed read, which you only adhere so much. So it's overhyped. People say, oh, I could speed read. This is great. You don't capture most of the information when you speed read. I'm one of them. I learned to trade, and I reread the book 6 times before I finally get the whole thing.
Yeah,
and, and your books are like that.
A typical book that I write, 150 pages, I'll read in about 20 minutes. I mean, I speed read too, but I have to because I got to edit it. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I'll reread that sucker 6 or 7 times before I find different things, and I'm always finding mistakes. But so, if people want to get that book that you wrote, The Service Without Excuses, or they want to learn more about the man behind Rob Lyon, where can they go?
Sure. 2 options. You can go to our website, which is robmlyon.com. That's ROBMLYON, like the city in France.com. Or you could call me on my phone number, which is 908-357-9945. I barely know it because I don't call it very much. So that's the 2 ways to reach me. You can also find me on Facebook, a Rob M Lyon page. I have a mastermind group that I put together of a little over 2,000 service professionals and some other people. There's also a lot of musicians in there because it all applies. That I put out that video every single day, that little 10-minute video, and try to put some fresh content and ideas on there, or some fancy, nice little quotes, or whatever the case was. So I try to keep it simple, nothing that's redundant and too much from somebody's face. But you could find the Service Without Excuses Mastermind, ask to join it. If you're any type of service business or somebody that I'll be glad to just add them to it, and they can feel free to add content. Feel free to bring value, just like yours. I love engagement. I think engagement's the key to the world. Mm-hmm. And if I get engagement, there's no bigger high to me in the world than having somebody engaged that you can have a dialogue with. Because if I can have a 20-minute or 30-minute dialogue with somebody, I love it. And you learn something from everybody, whether they're going to be a potential client or not. You still learn so much from people. It's amazing. It's the beautiful thing about it, I guess.
And see, folks, that's what makes him an e-hero. So, for all you guys listening or watching, go to robmlyon.com, request his book, give him a call, find him on Facebook. Hey, and catch us back here on another episode. Thank you very much. This is Rob Anspach with Rob Lyon checking out.
Good night. Thanks.